Hey everyone, welcome back to the Grind Together podcast. We are so excited that you're joining us today. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode, and we can't wait to dive into this week's. It's juicy.
Well, this is juicy. It's probably the most real that we'll ever get with you guys.
It is the most real. We figured we're all about being like authentic and real and like just laying it all out there. And we were like thinking about it and we're like, well, we've never really shared like our story and like who we are and how we got here. And I mean, we've let you guys in a little bit with other episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think a lot of you don't know us. And so we thought, hey, what the heck? Let's tell them our story, right?
Yeah.
And our goal behind this whole podcast and just, who we are as a married couple, who we are as individuals and all of that, and just all the fun things.
So many people out there just want to be seen, right? Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people are willing to get down to the core of who they are. And everybody's really scared to see themselves.
Yeah.
And everybody's really scared to, from what I can tell, everybody's really scared to actually like dive deep and do the work on themselves. Because a lot of people, the majority of people right now that are alive are just living day by day, hoping for the best.
Well, yeah, I also think sometimes people don't realize that they're living like that.
People don't realize that. And that's where we got to in our relationship. And that's the reason that we wanted to start this podcast and dive into some of the things that have helped us. Because you guys, if we're being real, there was a point in our marriage where we did not see a way to fix things.
No.
And
which makes me feel like such a fraud because if you know us, we've always tried to keep it real. We've always tried to be very transparent with people and kind of what you see is what you get, even on Instagram and things like that. And so I was even sharing a little bit of our story with a friend a while ago and she was like, oh wow, you guys I didn't think you had any problems. And I was like, that makes me feel like a piece of shit because we always try to be real. But
yeah,
honestly though, we really came to the point in our relationship where it was just kind of all right, well, there's no coming back from this. Either we fix it or we're done and we just got to move on and continue on with our lives.
Which sucks.
Yeah. And it was scary. It's a scary point to be at. It's not it was scary. It was scary to be okay, cool. If anyone's ever gone through divorce or has been in that situation in their life, that's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah. So we finally had to get to a point where we stopped lying to ourselves, both me and Lauren, and we had to start telling the truth, which I sure as hell hadn't done, right? And there was some things that she came out and finally said to me too, but I think a lot of relationships are living in this state, and we really hope that our story can help even one person out there, or one relationship out there, or one marriage. But in order for us to do that, we've kind of got to start from the beginning and walk you through who we are and where we've been and how we found each other and really what happened, right? And so we're going to dive into probably, closer to the end of this episode, the day we really stopped lying to ourselves.
Yep.
And getting there, we need you guys to stick with us, right? Because for us, it's not going to be easy and we want you with us. You know what I mean? So
I'm going to try not to cry a lot. I probably will because that's just who I am. So
that's okay. So our biggest thing is that we want you guys to look inside and be okay with yourself. Because if you can walk day to day and understand who you are, that therein lies happiness.
Yeah.
It's not in the material things or anything like that. And so we went back to our childhood with the life coach that we actually hired to figure out where we needed to be at, right? And so we want to walk through that. So I want to ask Lauren a question, if that's okay if we start with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Lauren's biggest thing that we figured out is that she was always she can never validate herself, right?
Yeah, like I look, and like I still am like trying to work on this, and I've gotten better at it, but is like seeking external validation from other people, and I feel like I didn't always recognize it until just barely, where I would be like, I mean, because I feel like I'm very good at making decisions, but it wasn't even with that. It was just with like literally everything. So yeah, I mean, that started young. Do you know what I mean?
Like
As we
what
went
age?
back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know, pretty young. I would say like growing up, I was very much like a very outgoing, like loud. I mean, I think of my daughter right now.
Well, let's even dig deeper. So you're the oldest of 6 kids.
I'm the oldest of 6.
Yeah.
Phenomenal family, like no complaints with growing up. Like family life was amazing. I had every opportunity ever. I'm just over here trying not to cry.
You're good.
But yeah, like I think like when people talk to you about like, cause I mean, like I don't remember much up until probably I was like 4 or 5. And those memories are like really good. Like when we had to sit down and like come up with our list of like our timeline and like those core memories, if that's what you want to call them, those memories are real good. But like if I talk to like my mom and she says like, oh my gosh, as a kid, you were, you know, I mean, the best memory I guess is that I can share with you guys is like, I was probably 4. I love to perform. I love like singing and I did theater and I did pageants and I love doing that. I love being on stage. I thought when I was younger, I was going to be like a professional singer and or actress or whatever. So like one of my biggest memories and like, I guess the best way to kind of like let you guys in and bring you in to like who I am is like, I was probably 4 or 5. And my parents had this coffee table and I would turn Disney songs on, or my mom probably did for me, on a CD player. And I would stand on the table and like you would have thought that I was performing like on American Idol or I was having a private concert for everybody. Like I was the kid that at every family function was like, I've made up a new song, come listen to me. Or like, I've made up a dance, come watch my new dance and my performance and all of that. And so I think like as a young kid, I was like so sure of myself. I mean it when I say like, I think of like Reese when I think of that, where she just like, she knows what she wants. She knows how to get it. She's not backing down. Like she knows she is the most amazing thing on the face of the planet and no one will convince her otherwise. Right.
Yeah. But then you fast forward to, I mean, like even this year, beginning of this year, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah. No, that definitely wasn't. Yeah.
And so at some point, like you've got to figure out, and this is kind of what we want to walk through, like where that switched.
I think for me, like if I really pinpoint it, it probably was starting in elementary school for me. I've always been like really loud. Like, you know that. I mean, like we've had people be like, does she have a volume button?
Everybody always says, does she have a volume? Can
and
you
she
turn
talks
that
so
down?
fast and like,
Which is so messed up. Right?
just all the things like, wow, you really need to, I heard so much growing up, like you really need to tone it down. Like all that kind of stuff. Right. But I had a teacher in the 3rd grade who was so mean. And luckily my mom's phenomenal and she pulled me out of that class and I got to switch classes there. But like a common thread in my story is that and I don't think it affected me as I don't think I thought it affected me as much as it did.
Okay.
But those teachers who like the elementary school teacher who was like, you're too loud, you need to be quiet. Oh, like I've been like 5'7" since I was probably 10.
Yeah.
Like I've looked very
like the girl that grew faster than everybody else.
I was I just was tall and I was mature and so like they'd be like, you have to stand in the back because you're too tall and like I liked these boys and they didn't like me back and like all these things. And even like going into like junior high, I had a teacher tell me that I wasn't smart and that I needed to transfer out of their class.
Yeah.
And if like I had a teacher in high school tell me that if like I got anywhere in life, it would be because of my pretty face and because of my good looks.
Yeah.
And so
that confidence was just kept getting drilled.
Yeah. And then I put myself in situations where like I did do theater and I had to audition for things and I had to have people tell me.
Oh, where you were like put up on the stage in front of people and had to be judged.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, I couldn't ever figure out like, I mean, you and I were talking about this earlier this week, is it was like, I just never felt like I was good enough. Like it didn't matter what I accomplished. I wasn't ever good enough for anybody.
Yeah.
Which was like
That's
a hard reality to like come by. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it really was just being seen. And I think like, I mean, like I've shared with you in elementary school, our stupid PE teacher made us do like weigh-ins. Like one time, like we had to do like our body mass, like it's part of like the PE unit. And like, I just said it to everybody, like I've literally been this size, if not maybe a little shorter since like literally the 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I remember like getting up on the scale and I weighed like 103 pounds and like all my friends were like 90, 95. And I was like, I'm fat. Like, oh my gosh, I'm fat. And I remember people like talking about that. And I remember that first time, and that was like one of the very first times I remember being like, I'm not pretty.
Yeah.
Like
That's
I'm
so sad.
fat. Like I'm like,
That's so
oh my
sad.
gosh. And I remember like I didn't eat lunch that day and they called my mom and do you know, and like that could have definitely progressed a lot worse than it did. Like luckily I have great parents, but do you know what I mean? Like that was a moment in my life where I was like, whoa, what the heck? Do you know what I mean? So.
Well, then you jumped into like boys and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's kind of the norm for everybody where it's a societal norm where you're always looking for the boy to like you or like.
Well, I very much was very like obsessed with like the rom-coms and like having that fairy tale story of like Prince Charming and like this is how a relationship should be and like
I've got to be this way for a boy
and I
so
think
they'll like me. And
I mean growing up we're 90s kids, right? So growing up in like the 90s / like early 2000s, like a lot of that was very like sexualized as well. It was very much like you have to be sexy in order to have a boy like you and you've got to do this and this to have a boy like you. And so like I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. I had rumors spread about me in high school and junior high. I think a lot of people thought I was kind of a slut and I wasn't. Do you know what I mean? Which makes me laugh now because like as a teenager, that seems so catastrophic, but really
small piece of the pie.
It's such a small piece of the pie. So like, I don't know. There's so many things that play into like, you know, boyfriends and thinking like, oh, like my high school boyfriend, I thought I was going to marry him. And I thought I was like so in love and I was like 15 at the time. Yeah. And like I did, like genuinely, like I think looking back, like I would never go back to 15-year-old Lauren and be like, you don't love him, because I think there was a part of me that did. But I wish I could go back and give her a big giant hug because I think she like let somebody else determine that self-worth for her. Do you know what I mean?
I think more than the little girl part of you, I think that is where a lot of the external validation started.
Oh, 100%. I wanted to think that I was like...
And for most teenagers out there, that's where it starts.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because he was cool. He was... Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's every... I mean, like, he was a senior and I was a sophomore and, like, I was dating him and it was really cool. And, you know, even before that, I had a boyfriend. And it was just, like, I wanted that romantic... Like, I wanted to be that girl that got the knight in shining armor kind of thing, which I did. But...
So... I mean, so how do you think that so if we pause there in your story, how has that external validation, like the lack of external validation, affected you in your adulthood?
That's a really hard question.
Not the lack of, the fact that you seek that external validation so much, like how has that affected you in your adulthood?
I've realized that I've had even though I've made decisions in my life, I've made them based off of the,
what other people think?
Like assumption of what I think other people want me to do. Does that make sense?
That's where we have a lot of common.
Yeah. So like I want like, okay, cool. Like what do the people in my like inner circle want? What am I like, what does society want me to be doing? What are my friends doing? Like all of those kind of things. Like I've made a lot of my life choices off of those. Okay. And I think playing into adulthood, like we talk a lot about like earlier this year when I kind of hit that like wall. Yeah. And I think at that point in time, I was like, what the hell? Like,
who am I?
This is everything everyone told me. Like everyone told me once I hit this point in my life, I would be happy, and I'm so unhappy. Yeah. Like, why am I so unhappy? Mm-hmm. And it was because like I hadn't decided that that's really what I wanted, and like I also hadn't decided that that was like worth all the glory that I put into it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that's kind of, does that answer your question?
No, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Okay. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Like, walk me through like childhood Matt. Like,
Okay.
like I want to know him. He was the
So-
cutest thing in the whole entire world.
Starting at the end for me, my biggest things and what I hope to portray to the guys out there is for my entire life, I had always lied. Like,
Okay.
and it sucks. And it sucks that I had to figure out that I'm a liar. Like, I've always lied. And when I was a kid, I did it like in telling stories to make a story sound better. And I think most people do that.
Yeah,
but,
we talked about, yeah, like I think every kid does.
But then like when it came down to real things, I realized that like I rarely ever told the truth.
Okay.
Right. And then one of my other things, if we're starting at the end, is I've got a lot of control issues. Right. And I love to have control of things, but it seems throughout my life as I'm walking back that I never really did.
Why do you think that
Right.
that was?
It's doing things for other people.
Like a people pleaser.
I've been a people pleaser too. So that's the thing. And so
But
even if we go back to like little Matt always did what other people wanted him to, just because like that's what your parents, like that's what all kids do, because you don't know anything else. Like it's hard to make your own decisions because you don't know. And so you just do whatever the norm is.
Yeah.
Right. And again, that's another topic for another day. And that's something that we want to talk about in parenting. Right. But so, and I grew up, I'm the youngest of four, and I, again, had every opportunity in the book, and I played a lot of sports, and my parents were amazing to me, and they let me do literally whatever I needed to make myself feel happy or whatever it was. But I think what I told myself was that I need to make other people happy. So I'm going to do what I think makes other people happy. Right.
okay.
And that's where the whole performing for other people, being a people pleaser, lying to myself started.
Okay, so like,
Right.
but what are some of those things that you did in your life? Like, what are some of the key things that you feel like, okay, these are things I did because I knew it would make,
Right.
kind of like you asked me, but like specific, like you have specific things you can think of that you did that if you could go back, maybe you wouldn't do if you were thinking for yourself.
Yeah. And again, it's hard because you're a kid, but like I played baseball a ton, and I think that going back, I probably wouldn't have done that. Right. And I did that because I think that it was making my dad happy and like my friends happy and all the people around me happy, because that's just what you did. Like you played the sports. And then, I mean, going into like my older years, like looking back now, I wish I would have never gone to college. Right.
Okay.
But I did it because that was a societal norm and that was a control thing. Right. I served a mission for our church, and I'm not so sure that that was right for me. Like I'm not, and that's really hard to say. And I've never said that to anyone, but I'm not sure that that's right for me. So those are some of those things if we're touching on them.
Yeah,
right?
which is interesting because I feel like
Yeah.
I was a part of a lot of those. Like
Yeah.
I was with
You
you
were.
through a lot of those, which is interesting because at the time,
And I'm not playing a blame game. I'm more figuring out me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not blaming it on my parents. I'm not blaming it on anybody else. I'm just saying that like I was just doing things because that was the thing to do.
well, and there was a lesson to
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
be learned in all of it. Like you're obviously not like pissed that you did it. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
if I could like push a restart button and do a few things differently, like those are some things maybe you would do differently to see where it took you.
But I don't think that like everything happens for a reason. And
100%.
I think that my journey has gotten to 30-year-old Matt that is sitting here right now. And I don't think that I would change anything that I've ever done, because my course of life, because I am a big believer in God, it was predetermined, and you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that the things that have happened for a reason. Just so you know a little bit about me and a little bit about our story. And again, there's probably maybe less than a handful of people that know this about me, right? But at a very, very young age, I'd probably even say like 10, 11, 12, I was introduced to pornography, right? And I mean, lots of people out there have seen porn and they know what it is. And like you've seen porn.
I have. I've seen porn. I've watched porn.
Watched it.
Yep.
And at a very, very young age, that affected my life in a way where I had to hide. Right. And that was a lot of thing that controlled the lying for me, because I grew up in a Christian church. And if you were doing things like that and viewing pornography or masturbating or anything like that, like you weren't worthy. Right. And so, I mean, what do you think a kid like me would do?
You hide.
You hide and you lie.
And you lie. You lie until you're blue in the face.
And you lie.
Also, I have to say, like, it's interesting though, because like,
but that's a big part of my story and we can touch more on it.
Yeah. Like I was going to say, like, it's so interesting. And as a society, we're so normalized to like being an alcoholic or being like an addict of drugs or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? But like, we talk so openly about so many things, but like pornography is something that we don't ever really talk about. And it's brushed under the rug, which I think for kids and teenagers and adults even, and like, it's so easy to brush it under the rug and to lie about it because it's such a taboo. Like nobody talks about it.
But the thing is it's not that big of a fucking deal.
It's not.
So, and and here's my thing, and we're kind of jumping all over the place, but my view on porn and pornography is if you want to watch it, watch it. And if you want to use it for some other reason in your relationship, go for it. Right. But I don't know if you know anything about porn, but porn affects your brain in a way, just like a drug, just like an amphetamine, right? Where you're constantly seeking more and it's hard to get out of that cycle. It's a very addictive thing. And so for me, I got to the point, and it took me so damn long to actually say, hey, this is not healthy for me anymore. Right. So like I said, do as you wish. For me, it wasn't healthy. Right. And it took me a really, really long time to figure that out. And it's a big, big part of our story. Right. And that's why we were sitting here and we're like, okay, cool. We got to tell people who we are.
Yeah.
Right. And we're like, I don't know, I was like, damn it. Like, I can't do that without telling people about this. You know what I mean? So
which is crazy.
But it's like, whatever, because I own it and I'm okay with myself and I love myself. And this is probably the first time in probably 16 years that I can actually say that. And that's a big thing for me. Because for so long, I fucking hated myself. I was in the depths of my own inner self. And again, we're jumping around here, but since I was obviously if I was introduced to pornography at 12 years old, I think since I was like 16, because I mean, fortunately my road was very light and I didn't dive very, very deep into the subject, but, you guys know a little bit about us. Like our very first episode was on suicidal thoughts and every day since I was 16, I've thought about that.
And do you think that
and
is
every day,
like the reason?
Absolutely. Well, it's because it ties into a lot of reasons. It ties into the fact that I couldn't be okay with myself and the fact that I didn't think everybody else around me was okay with me either. Why would somebody like me still want to be here? Right.
Yeah.
And so it was a fight every single day. But yeah, I mean, ask me another question, I guess, because I could keep going about that.
No, you're good. You're good. I think like it's so important for people to understand like that, like when you were like, because you have had that journey, kind of like the thought processes that happen of like, okay, cool. Like I'm having a really shitty day or like,
well, here, let's talk about this first, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that's a big part of my story where I was a young kid introduced to it. I always lied. I like was never okay with myself. Right. I was the quarterback on a football team in high school. I was the catcher on the baseball team in high school. I went and played baseball in college down in Scottsdale, Arizona, and had a like hell of a time doing it. It was so much fun. Then I went on that Mormon mission, and all throughout the time, like I was in and out of like being okay, being not okay, thinking about suicide, like watching porn, like doing stuff with girls, like
you weren't doing that. I think it gets clouded right there. You weren't doing those things on your mission. You were having those thoughts of like, oh shit, I did this before I left.
Right.
I kind of thought in Mormon culture, Latter-day Saint culture, you talk,
like you've got to like
talk
to
your
a bishop and like repent. And I'm like,
and you
I've
had to
kind
be
of done
worthy
that
to go on your mission, right? And so he had kind of done that, but
well, and
it
that's
still
the thing.
ate at him.
Yeah, that's the thing. It like eats at you and eats at you. Even though you share some things, it's like you don't share everything, and it's like it still eats at you. So, but that was my kind of quick, dirty version of the journey there, where it was like in and out of everything, and then like I went on a 2-year mission. Oh, and then Lauren and I met our senior year.
Yeah, we met our senior year of high school.
Yeah, we went to different high schools, but we met through like just friends. Then we dated for a year and a half before I left on a 2-year mission, and I went to a place called the Dominican Republic, and then I came back 2 years. We got married 2 months to the day that I got back after having not seen each other for 2 years.
Which I know people are like, you guys are crazy, but we talked like we hadn't seen each other.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, because like Skype or like FaceTime wasn't a thing. Skype was a thing.
I could call her,
but you didn't have internet. So.
I could call her 2 times a year. So I called her 4 times, and I think I probably broke the rules and called you a couple more times. But
and then we emailed every like
and then
Wednesday.
You emailed every week, yeah. But still, it's hard. And so we missed each other, and I got back, and I was like, okay, cool. This is the girl I want to marry. This is the girl I want to be with. I've been good for a really long time, right? And Lauren was obviously here, and she was able to date and kind of figure herself out through like her first year of college and things like that. But yeah, 2 months after we hadn't seen each other for two years, we got married, right? And we just jumped in from being like 20 years old, 21 years old to like real life.
Like, oh, we have to like now be adults. We had like no money. It was great.
Yeah.
We were just crazy in love though. So.
For sure. And so, and soon after that, we had our first kid. I think it was 2 years. 2 years after we got married, we had our first kid.
Right before our second anniversary, we had Bodhi.
And,
but I think like something.
How was your confidence like when we got married? Like, were you still seeking external validation? Like, did you still put so much eggs in my basket?
Yeah, I did.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like that's part of the reason I dated while you were gone. Even though like we talked and
sure,
I had that validation from you like over email and things like that. But like, it's nice to feel wanted, and I think a lot of people can like relate to that. I also was doing pageants at the time. Like I was, I held 2 different titles here in Utah. One wasn't as big as the other one. And then I competed on like a state level too. And so. Yeah,
she was Miss Utah County and Miss American Fork.
Yeah, so fun. But
so that was a big thing for her too. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like putting myself out there. I feel like it's so funny that I'm like, I seek external validation because I've literally just set myself up my entire life to just be judged. Yeah, like just to have people tell me if I am good enough. Right. Yeah. And so like, that's part of the reason why I dated a lot while you were gone, you know, we've talked about that where it was like,
sure.
It was nice to like feel like instead of me chasing or me like pursuing, it was really nice to be pursued. And it was like, I never had a boyfriend. I never had anything like that was really serious. I went on a few dates and like, and all that fun stuff. Yeah. And like we communicated a ton. And that point in our relationship was very important for me because I think before you left on your mission, and I think this is the same with like a lot of relationships is that, we were like, I was very sexually attracted to Matt. Like, oof. Does that make sense? Like I was physically attracted and very sexually attracted to you. And so, I mean, you were my very best friend and like, we did have good conversations and we did talk, but like, if I look back, it was like, I mean, we were young. So it was very like kind of surface level and like nothing was really serious. And, but it wasn't until we had that break and like the physical attraction never went away, but like the sexual attraction went away.
We couldn't touch each other.
We couldn't touch each other and we couldn't do anything. And like, I like you weren't here. And so it was kind of fun to watch that relationship evolve into such like a deeper, a deeper relationship
Yeah.
as far as like conversation and things like that. And I think I held on to that for a really long time, that like you are my best friend. Like you are the person I talk to about everything. That, like,
Right.
do you know what I mean? And so going into marriage, I was just kind of like, this is everything I've ever wanted. Like, this is
Everything's gonna be
my
great.
fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like, if we're talking rom-coms, like I've got the boy, like I'm going to ride off into the sunset and life's going to be great. And like, little did I know that was like, I would say like, not necessarily that I lost myself, but I started to live in a place that was just very comfortable for me.
Yeah.
That like, I had a job that like, I went to school with you for a little bit, and then I like had to I had to work so that you could go to school, because we thought that that's what was the best route.
Sure.
And it was just like I was doing, it was almost like I was living, but I like wasn't really living. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but if you look at like, we talk about like the emotion chart, which we'll have to post somewhere sometime.
Just look up the word apathy.
But I lived in apathy.
Figure out what that means for you.
Like I lived in apathy for probably 9 years.
Because I didn't know what that meant. So it's just like living day to day, not knowing what's going on. You just know that you're just doing the next thing.
You're doing it. And like, I always have been like, I've had ideas and I've done cool things and like, and all the things. But like, I really, 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 like, if I look back,
Like that's how you felt.
I almost don't recognize myself.
Right. Because you couldn't see yourself at that point.
I couldn't see myself. I don't even recognize that girl. Like we tease, we call her Costco Lauren because I have a Costco card and it's like horrible. It's a horrible picture of me.
In it, yeah.
But like, I want to hug her and I just
Right.
want to be like, hey, like quit with the comparison, quit with doing everything that you feel like everybody else wants you to do. Like you're a good mom and like you're a good wife and like, you know, like all the things that like, I feel like everybody goes through. And like, I think for me in our relationship, having everybody know like kind of like your story,
Right.
I didn't know that at the beginning.
Yeah. No.
And I don't,
I wasn't telling anybody.
you weren't, but
Hell no.
and as we've gone through, like, I mean, we've been married 9 years and
Right.
I say like, I felt very connected to you. And I did feel connected to you, like in those, like I have always felt connected to you, right?
Yeah.
I'm like eating my words right now. I've always felt connected to you, but I always knew there was something.
Yeah.
And I thought it was me.
And there, yeah.
And so like,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. And so like, I think looking back on those, like on our journey, like
Yeah.
not that it hasn't been amazing and not that there haven't been times where like it's been really, really, really good.
Yeah.
But I wish I could have seen myself a little bit more and known that like that external validation that I was seeking from you was really coming more that I needed it from me. And that I needed to see myself and I needed to feel connected to me and I needed to appreciate my body. And the fact that like,
Right.
I think as a women, like our physical appearances play so much into everything. And we've talked about this even like with like pornography and things like that, where I'm like,
Sure.
oh, like, do I need to go get a boob job? Do I need to do this? Do I need to, which is so funny. And we can laugh about
Yeah.
it now. But in the moment, it was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? Right.
Yeah.
But even if you were to tell me like, Lauren, you're perfect. You're everything that I need. It was like, I don't believe it because I don't believe it myself.
Yeah.
So instead of like, I've really had to do the work of like, okay, why do I appreciate myself? Like, cool. Like, why do I want a healthy body? Or like, why is that important to me? It's like, cool. Like I may have stretch marks, but like, and saggy boobs, but like I've housed 3 amazing babies
Yeah.
and I've nursed those babies and I've taken care of those babies. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'm just a blubbering mess of like emotion right now. But like, that really is like, you have to see yourself and you have to be able to look at yourself. Like there were times where people would be like, say affirmations in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right?
Everybody always
And I
just
could
say
never
like, I
look
love
at-
myself. I love myself.
I could
love
never do
myself.
that. I never, ever,
neither.
ever could.
Me neither.
Never. I could never look at myself in the mirror and be
I
like,
think it's hard for most people.
but I think it's something everyone should try
But
and
that's
see
also,
how uncomfortable you get with it.
yeah.
Because I remember like having to do that and having like literally just repeat, like look at yourself in the mirror and repeat to yourself, like, I love you. I love
Right.
you. No, I love myself. I love you, because you're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I ever had to do that, I was like, I don't love myself. I don't even recognize myself. I don't even see myself. Like, I don't even know who I am. Like, where did that little girl go?
Yeah. So that's, and not to like stop your story.
No,
but-
please. I'm kind of done talking. So take over.
Yeah. So we get married. We have one kid. A couple years down the road, we have another kid. We're both working. I finished school. I get a job. Lauren's like very, like, she's amazing. Like, she is a badass, and she's always made more money than me. And it's been like, we are, if you want to call a conventional like marriage, it is not us. And
I wouldn't say that
we
though, because
both-
like at the same
that's okay.
time,
Like,
but, like,
own your crap. Like, you're amazing.
but I want to say,
yeah.
like, I tell you all the time, like, yeah, like I'm very fortunate with the job that I have and like the journey that I've been able to take, but like,
Right.
I really couldn't do that without you,
No, for sure. Yeah. It's
because
been a
like
te- it's
it is
been
a
team
very
thing,
much a
but-
team effort. It very much is. Like,
Right.
I don't think you can do what you do without me, and I couldn't do what I do without you. Like,
But my point is that like this whole time, through like the 5 to 8 years, or like 1 to 8 years that we're married, right? I've still got my shit going on, right? Where I've got my problems. I'm lying. I can't tell you the truth. I can't tell myself the truth. I don't even want to look deeper into like what my real problems are.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm good. Like I'm figuring out that I'm more of like an extrovert than I thought I was. Like, all this stuff is stirring inside of me. Like, hey man, like, you're not being yourself. You're not being yourself. You're not being yourself. And like, if you've ever had a problem like this, you probably know that like, you tell yourself that I'm going to my grave with this. Like, I'm not telling anyone
yeah,
ever. Like, no one will find out. And what that does is it just leads to so much resentment, so much hate inside of yourself. And I mean, I've always known the saying that like anything dark comes to light,
yeah.
right? And,
Well, and I would also say, like, in the darkness,
we-
that's where things grow.
exactly. And then when you're at the bottom, there's only up to go. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of things
Started
that we
from the
could talk
bottom, now we're here.
So, but it literally took our marriage. So we had a third kid.
During that pregnancy, though, like, I feel like we need to preference this.
Yeah.
It
So
was
we're just like
rough.
fast forwarding through all this to get to the end of it.
Yeah,
But
it was rough. It was bad.
yeah, with our third kid, it kind of became very prevalent because Lauren, like she said, she's like, I kind of always knew. I always kind of knew,
Well,
but
and
I
right
was always
before
afraid
that-
to ask.
Yeah, but like right before that, like we were like in a keeping up with the Joneses phase.
Right, where we tried like we made friends and we were trying to like
And we were
please other
looking at
people.
other people to find
Yeah.
that, like, to bring that happiness to us. And so, like, we always say,
Yeah.
like, 28 was such a good year. Like, we loved when we were 28 or whatever, right?
Sure.
And like, we like finally sat down and looked at it and we were like, oh shit. Like, it's because we put so much
We needed somebody
on
else.
other people. And like, those people brought us so much happiness and they were such amazing relationships. And we're still friends with like most of those people.
Yeah.
But they brought so much like light, and we were able not to have to focus on each other, or not even each other. Like, because I would say our relationship was pretty good during that point.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but we still had our stuff.
And then like it took a few things of me being like, I knew something wasn't up and Matt wasn't talking to me.
Right.
And that, which we now know, the connection aspect of it for me, when I don't feel connected or I feel like he's lying or being sneaky or whatever that looks like
Yeah.
I can read him, like his energy. Not that I can read his energy, but like you can sense
You
when
know
people,
your spouse,
you know
yeah.
people. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, when your kid's lying and you're like, just like, let's
Tell
just
the
talk
truth,
to
man.
me. Like,
Yeah.
and I just felt so disconnected. And I thought, like, again, I thought I was the problem. Like, I was like, you don't want to talk to me. Like, why do you don't want to talk? Like, I'm too needy. I need too much from you. Like, I'm not having sex with you enough. I'm not doing
and
this.
can
I'm
I
not
also
doing
s-
that. I'm not doing that.
Well,
Do
can
you know
I also
what I mean?
say though that like my emotions were either very high or very low.
Yeah. Like you were even like
I was either like the best person in the world or I was the biggest dick.
biggest
Right?
asshole.
Yeah.
But I also like matched that very well.
Well, yeah, you are. You're a very strong personality person, and like you like didn't put up with my crap, but like it's because I was not happy with myself, right?
But you could
And-
never give me an answer as to why you weren't happy.
Yeah.
And I
And I would always blame it on other things.
Yes.
And I would always blame it on other people or come up with reasons for that. And I think most people out there do. So if that's you, cut the shit, because literally we cannot. I always used to blame, and it was always me. It was always my fault.
You would put the blame on things, and I was like,
but I had never owned up to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
I should say, like, we hit that point, like, if we're doing timeline wise,
sure,
we have third baby, things go, like, right before I have him, things are not good. Like, we are just like I'm pretty much like, well, they always say don't have a baby to fix things, but hopefully this baby fixes this, right? And I will forever go to my grave saying that, like, oh, I'm gonna cry again. Like, everybody knows that's listened to our first episode, like, Cal, who was our third baby. Like, I tell Matt this all the time, like, he is like our light. Like, he's like who saves me, right? And I'm like, I will tell him that until I'm dead, right? Like, I will always tell him, like, and he does on a day-to-day basis. It's just who he is. Like, he came into this world just like knowing and just understanding everything. Yeah. So we have third baby, things get better, or not really better, but we just don't talk about it. It goes back to that apathy stage.
Brush it back under the rug and don't talk about it. And hopefully things get better, because I'm for sure as shit not telling anyone still.
Well, and like on the surface, things were good. Like, things were fine. Like, our relationship really like wasn't too bad. But when we fought, I should say, why we say that like we got to the point where like divorce was on the table is because things were fine, like every day. And then, like Matt said, one little thing would happen, and it was like the world had
our fights just
crashed.
Escalated so fast.
Oh my gosh, it was like fine, like bomb, boom, like there's no coming back from that kind of a thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll let you take it over from there.
No, you're fine. And like, I don't want to be, I mean, take it as it is, but like our whole story isn't about the fact that I had like a porn problem or anything like that. Because our story is deeper than that. And if you guys want to ask us about it, please do. And we'll talk about things in more episodes and on different videos and things like that. But, I just want everybody out there to know that lying is not the answer. And I went 15 or 16 years of my life with that being my reality.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I couldn't live with myself anymore. And I literally started booking trips in hopes that on that trip, away from our kids, away from everybody else, I could tell my wife the truth.
But why did you want to take me somewhere?
Exactly.
And not just tell me here? Like, because you've told me that before.
Well, it was just...
Well, because I couldn't go any... Like, you were so afraid.
It's like I was trying to run away still.
Well, like, you were trying to run away, but, like, you also were, like, trying to plan telling me because you felt like, okay, if I tell her, like, I'm free kind of a thing, right?
Well, so, yeah, and it's a religious experience anytime that you get something off of your shoulders.
Yeah.
Right? Where... like it brings you down to the point where, like you said, like you can feel it in your heart, you can feel it in your aura. It lies eat at you. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept running away from it, but then it would just come back up and even stronger and even faster. And so finally there was a night that I stopped lying to myself. And it was the night where Lauren and I had a fight. And I was blaming it on somebody else in a different situation. When in all reality, I knew all of the root problems to everything was the fact that I could never tell her the truth. And so, because I was scared, like it is scary. Because with this topic, like I wish I would have had a drinking problem. You know what I mean? Like I wish I would have been addicted to like something different, but this was the card I was dealt. So, but I told her, I was like, "Okay," like we put the kids to bed. I walked in the room and I said, "All right, I'm ready to talk." And I don't know what your reaction was to it, but
I was like ready to like fight you. Like I was like, let's go. Like I thought it was going to be like every other fight. Do you know what I mean? Like it had been so...
She was ready to be done.
I was done. I was like, I'm throwing in the towel. Like I can't do this anymore. Like everything's so surface level. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. I don't know. And I think everyone has to understand, like before this moment, a couple months prior to had hit rock bottom in my own personal life, which really made me start working on myself. Do you know what I mean? So I think that that's like an important piece of our puzzle. And I know I'm so sorry we're all over the place. But I did it kind of exactly what Matt's saying, where he's like, I don't want this whole episode to be about the fact that I watched porn and that I had a porn issue, right?
Which if it is, that's fine. Whatever.
But here's it. Really, it's quit lying to yourself. And that's why I hit rock bottom earlier this year was because I lived in apathy for so long, and I let other people or society or whatever that looked like tell me what I thought happiness should be or what success looked like. And even though I could never pinpoint it, right?
Yeah.
And so I finally hit that point where I thought was successful or whatever. And I was like, this is shit. And I hit rock bottom, and I like almost had to pick myself back up. And so I stopped lying to myself that day. And I had to go and figure, and that was a scary as hell place to be because it was dark and I didn't know where I was going. And I hadn't like, do I continue on the path that I'm on? Do I even want to do that? I don't know. Do I go here? Do I go here? And so I had this whole 360, like where I finally was willing to look at myself and own my shit and quit living for other people and to really be like, what does Lauren want? What's going to make me happy? What does success look like to me? All of those things, like I went through that journey a couple months before you did. So when we hit this part,
and I saw that and I wanted it,
and you wanted it so bad, and I was so frustrated because I knew you were trying so hard to get there, and and again, I didn't know why, and I kept thinking, and I came to you and I said, I think I am the root of your unhappiness. Like I think I am the reason.
Gosh, it's so sad hearing that now.
But like, I think everyone needs to hear this. Like I literally was like, I am the what makes you unhappy. Like it's me, and I love you so much that like, I can't do this anymore. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to you. Like either we got to figure this out or like we need to be done because I'm so done with you being unhappy because I love you. Like I want you to be happy and I want you to have this amazing life. And I don't feel like I can provide that for you. When in reality, that wasn't the case, but that's what I thought. And so when you were like, I'm ready to talk, I was like, oh shit, here we go. Like, I was playing big and I had these big balls and I was like, let's go. And I was so worried you were going to lay it down on me. Like, I'm done. And I was like, oh shit, like, what am I supposed to do now? Do you know what I mean? So like, I don't know.
That's a good point for people. And I'll touch on that and then I'll finish up the story. But you are the cause of your own unhappiness and you're also the cause of your happiness. And that is something that in the past 6 months, and guys, we're talking 6 months, like that we realized because before that was not the case for me. Like I could not have told you that. Because I was so unhappy and I was blaming it on other people and I had lied to myself for so long and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't see myself for who I was. I was not okay with myself and I lost control. And the one thing that Matt wants in his life is control.
Yeah.
And I lost control. And I was drowning. So I came to her and I said, hey, I'm ready to talk. And guys, like getting to that point in my life was so damn hard. Like there was literally like a concrete ball in my throat.
Yeah.
I literally would stop anything coming up my throat and it would just push it right back down. So I would never say anything. And so this night, finally, I just sat down on the couch and I was just like, hey, babe, this is my problem.
You said, I'm ready to talk and I'm going to talk to you and I need you not to say, because knowing me, you said, I need you not to say anything.
I'm going to tell you everything. I need you not to say anything.
But as soon as I'm done, you can ask as many questions as you want.
You can ask any question you want.
And I promise I'll tell you the truth.
Yep. And that was the day. Sorry if I get emotional. That was the day I told the truth. And it's been so damn hard, but from then on, that has been my number one goal in life, is to tell the truth and to see myself for who I really was helped me so much in being happy and controlling my own life and understanding who I am. And the reason I never told anybody is because I was so damn scared of what they were going to, or how they were going to react or what would happen, because I for sure thought that she was going to leave me. You know what I mean? She's just like, I'm done. I'm walking out. Like that was in my mind.
You had already decided how I was going to react.
Right.
No matter how you brought it up to me.
Right.
You had it played out in your head. Like, I'm going to tell her this. And you said to me that night, you said, it was to the point where I either told you this and I had to be okay with you leaving and you being done.
Yeah.
Or I was not going to be here anymore.
Yep. I chuckle about it, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
And that sucks to say.
And I think like, if I mean, like I can only speak for myself, but like watching you do that, like, I think a lot of people like when people hear of other people's stories or things that people have gone through, they like to always say like, well, I would have reacted like this, or I would have done this, or like, I can't believe that she puts up with that, or that he puts up with that, or whatever that looks like, right? But that's so unfair because just like you thought you already had how I was going to react pegged.
Right.
Like nobody knows that until you're in the situation.
So
like
I told you.
You told me.
And I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, ask me any question you want.
Yeah.
Right. And all Lauren does is she comes over to me, gives me the biggest hug, and says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you went through that for so long. And you guys, that day, that night, those 5 minutes that we sat there and I talked to her about that, I will never forget. And it's been the best day of my life so far. And I've gotten married. I've had kids. I've done so many things. And that has been the best day of my life. And I was met by a person that was so loving and so non-judgmental, and that was honestly hurt for me because she understood that I had gone my whole entire fucking life with this on my shoulders. And for her to be the one that I tell rather than anyone else meant a whole hell of a lot to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just wanted to be let in, and that connection was instantly there. And it was like,
yeah. So
everything made sense. Everything made sense. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I felt connected to you. I felt like I could ask you anything. Like I now knew that like the biggest thing that you had been dealing with, like you finally told me. Do you know what I mean? And that's not to say that like we haven't had our like fights since then. And like I haven't had to go through like my own personal
No,
things.
but that's where it began, where we were like, okay, great. We've got to figure something out. And guys, it wasn't like a come to Jesus moment, just so you know. Like if you're religious, it doesn't have to be like, hey, go talk to this person, this person, this person. The person that I needed to talk to is sitting right here next to me.
Yeah.
And
I will say, like, at the beginning, like, we didn't really talk about it. Like, even though he was like, you can talk about it and you can,
right.
Like, you can ask me anything.
But the process from after that has since been like, listen, we know that we've always been way more than what we were.
Yeah.
And that's where it came down to like, okay, cool. Let's look into hiring a coach. Let's look into hiring somebody that's going to help us figure out like who we really are. And obviously also get through this because it's not easy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, again, I'm never going to blame another person for anything that happens to me in my entire life. And neither should you. And for that, I'm so grateful. And I'm also like, I guess my point is that from that was our tipping point where it's like, okay, cool. We know that we're so much bigger and that we can help other people. And we've always known that, but we had to get over our own shit. And so what we want other people and you guys to know, and the reason that we're putting ourselves out there like this, because this is not easy. Like it's not. But the reason that we're doing it is so that you can see yourself the way that we've come to see ourselves. And our story helps us do that. And it's so crazy, but the happiness that I can feel on a daily basis and the attitude change that I can see in myself on a daily basis is astronomical. And it is so interesting to see.
Yeah.
But our main goal in all of this is you too can figure yourself out, and you can see yourself for who you really are if you can stop blaming other people, and you can understand that you create your own happiness and you create your own world. Guys, we love that you're here with us, and thank you so much for listening to our story. We know that this episode has been longer, so we are sorry, but this has been the realest moment that we've ever had, and it's it's a breakthrough for us, and we hope that you take it and run with it. This isn't the last time that I'm going to talk about my issues. It's probably not the last time she's going to talk about her issues, and we really hope that if you're struggling with any of the stuff that we have struggled with, that you can reach out to us, because guess what? I wish I would have had somebody that I trusted that I could have reached out to, and that would have been okay with it, and that had been there, and that had shared with me, right? So if that's you, let me know and hit me up, because I'm your person, all right? But we love you guys, and we love that you're with us on this journey, and I'm so grateful for my wife, because I don't know if there's a lot like you out there. But,
you're nice. You're
but the
sweet.
thing is that we're working through everything, and we are here with you, and you guys get to see the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows.
Yeah, so if you listen to this episode and you're like, okay, cool, like, I'm in the trenches with you, and like, let's go. Make sure you're subscribing to our subscription episodes. It's going to be a lot more in depth of a lot of the stuff that we've had to go through in order to get to the point where we are at now. It's going to be a lot on how to look at those relationships in your life, not only exterior, but like your interior relationship with yourself. And just a whole bunch of goodness. So make sure if this is like resonating with you, you check back in on Wednesday. You can go ahead and subscribe to that to get a little bit more exclusive content from us. But if not, we'll see you guys next Monday. Love you guys.
See ya.